Let's do a little motivation. Quiet our mind again. So I think it's not enough simply to find the happiness, find methods for the happiness of this lifetime alone. This life is impermanent. If we use discriminating wisdom, we can see it's not enough, not sufficient to even achieve nirvana, which the Buddha taught about, the goal of the lesser vehicle, the goal of the practitioner of intermediate scope, because all living beings are exactly equal with us. In order to bring about the welfare of ourself and all others, we have to achieve full enlightenment eventually. To do that, we have to develop both good heart, altruistic intention to achieve enlightenment, bodhicitta, along with the wisdom that realizes the ultimate nature of reality, emptiness. The two support one another. Here, in order to better understand emptiness as an antidote to our own afflictions, so that we can find peace of mind along the way, less hindrances, less jealousy, less pride, less depression, less anger, less attachment, less of the disturbing emotions, so that we have more space in our mind to work for others, and we can actually contemplate the possibility of engaging in the Bodhisattva's activities. I'm going to study the tenets of the lower schools and the higher schools that Buddha himself taught to get a better sequential view, understanding of the view of emptiness. For the welfare of all sentient beings, so that I can, along the way, be less a problem and eventually achieve enlightenment for their benefit. Bring your attention back.
There's a Garuda on the roof.
It sounds heavier than it is.
Sounds like we have a convention up there, huh?
Yeah.
Mahakala. Okay. Okay. So, earlier, in our last class, which was just those of us who are sitting here, it's just a little while ago, so those who might be watching on DVD, it might have been last week or yesterday or a little while ago. We were talking about the Sautrantika tenets, especially on the mode of asserting objects, and we'd mentioned how this was different than the Vaibhashika view of what, especially from the point of view of ultimate, what are considered ultimate truths. Vaibhashika view of ultimate truth kind of makes some sense, doesn't it? I mean, there's one flavor of it, not that something is ultimate because if you break it down, this is not called an ultimate truth, because if you break it with a hammer, the consciousness is canceled. But in the sense of analyzing, something which when analyzed with the mind, separated with the mind, the comprehension of it is not canceled. Those kind of things are ultimate. There's some flavor there, I think, that continues on in the sense of ultimacy. But here, from the Sautrantika point of view, Pat, what's an ultimate truth for the Sautrantikas? What does our text say?
Oh.
You remember? I remember.
The Sautrantikas?
Like Kramer. Don't look up here. Look at me.
I'm not looking. I can't see it anyway.
Okay.
I can't think of one.
Just try. Not one. Not an ultimate truth. What is the definition?
Oh, the different. I thought you said think of one thing. I don't remember.
Is it our ultimate truths? What is it the same as for the Vaibhashikas? Actually, if I was debating with Pat, I'd start the debate by saying, it follows that you don't know the definition of an ultimate truth for the Sautrantikas, and he would have to say, duh, which means I accept. Not duh, duh. It almost sounds like duh. Okay. So this is where, even though we read something superficially, if this is where discussion with one another, this kind of debate would be very useful, because it kind of quiz one another. Because we just went over this, and it'd be good to try to have some imprint. Let's see, how about Venerable Somala?
But I will answer your second one.
You're going to ask going back?
They're not the same.
Okay, you're answering the second one. They're not the same. The Vaibhashika and the Sautrantika view of ultimate and conventional. What's an ultimate truth for the Sautrantikas, Venerable?
Can't remember. Is it something about not performing function? Ultimate truth.
Ultimate truth is that which is In the text by Jason Tricky Gelson said that which is ultimately able to perform a function. And ultimate truths were things which were impermanent. Actually, the ordinary things that we think of are called ultimate truths. They're ultimately real, as opposed to conventional truths, which are just imputed by the mind, right? Like space and so forth.
This is in
Sautrantika. In the text that, another definition, another way of getting toward that, here the definition is given by Konchuk Jigme Wangpo was an ultimate, a phenomena, this is ultimate truth, a phenomenon that is able to bear reasoned analysis from the point of view of whether it has its own mode of subsistence without depending on imputation by terms or conceptual consciousness. So that means you could analyze it. It's able to bear analysis. This is a kind of expression that comes in the upper tenets also, to bear analysis. Something, like say from the Prasangika point of view, something would be, you could say bear analysis means withstand analysis. You could analyze it and it would still be there. Okay? Bear, a phenomenon which is able to bear reasoned analysis from the, a reasoning analysis from the point of view of whether it has its own mode of subsistence without depending on imputation by terms or conceptual consciousness. So that means it does have its own mode of subsistence. You can, even when you analyze it, you won't destroy that. So this is from the Sautrantika point of view. These are ultimate truths, and that are called specifically characterized or generally characterized phenomena. Carrie? Remember the term?
I think they'd be specifically characterized.
Because?
Generalities have a, I don't know if I'm using the right words, but generalities are impermanent.
Generalities are impermanent.
And so objects.
Something right, but something wrong. Generalities are permanent, are impermanent?
No, they're permanent.
Generalities in general are permanent. I say in general. Might be some kind of reason for saying that. But generally, and here when we talk about generally characterized phenomena, it is talking about permanent things, which are ultimate truths or?
They're ultimate truths. In Sautrantikas.
No, they're conventional truths. This is good. So we just talked about it a little while ago. Conventional truths for the Sautrantikas are things that are not able to perform a function. Ultimate truths are ultimately able to perform a function. So ultimate truths are these things, books and cups and tables and chairs and persons. They're ultimate truths. They're not, the ultimate truth for the Sautrantika is not are not permanent. If it's permanent, it's got to be a conventional kind of truth, right? Okay, so just a little review there. So now the mode of asserting subjects, or as the text says, object possessors. It's just the word the word for object, as that we talked about before, is yul, like you'll go to hell. Remember, yul, Y-U-L. I think I told you this story once. Once I think Anila Ann. Do you know Anila Ann? Some of you. And she came. She went to see Lama Sopa Rinpoche at Kopan many years ago. She had gone to an astrologer in, somewhere in Kathmandu, had her horoscope done, or maybe it was from Dharamsala, I don't know. And it said that she was going to be born as a crow if she didn't make a certain phenomena. And so she went into Rinpoche's room to ask him, to show him this, and she said, "Oh, Rinpoche, guess what? Guess what I'm going to be born in my next life?" And he said, "A crow." And so he had clairvoyance to see the ripening effect. In general, Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to say, if you knew, at a meditation course, he would look very serious. He said, if you knew where you were going to be born in your next life, you wouldn't sleep at night. So if you thought about that. So, mode of asserting subjects, Yul Chen, that which possesses an object. So there are different kinds of subjects or object possessors. When we talk about, the first thing that's talked about is the concept of the person. In Tibetan we say kangsak. The person is a subject, right? It possesses objects because it has a consciousness. Consciousnesses are also subjects. They possess their own particular kind of objects. Conceived objects and direct objects, indirect objects, appearing objects, and so forth. So some Sautrantikas assert the continuum of the aggregates as the illustration of the person. So they say somehow all of the tenets other than the Prasangika say that you can always find within the basis of designation, you can find something that ultimately can stand as an illustration of the object. Here they say that it's, although the person is imputedly existent, as opposed to substantially existent, because remember a person is empty of being self-supporting, substantially existent. There is an emptiness of being substantially existent. The person is just imputedly existent. Still, there's something you can point to as you can find that is the basis for imputing the person. And some of the Sautrantikas say it's the continuum of the aggregates. Others say it is the mental consciousness. What did the Vaibhashikas say? Was that exactly the same or slightly different? Do you remember? Venerable Sohya, do you remember? Remember they said the mere collection of the aggregates? So there's when you investigate, Chandrakirti talked about 7 ways of analyzing the chariot. How the chariot couldn't be found when analyzed in 7 ways when talking about emptiness. I'm not talking about Sautrantika, talking about just to give an example. One of the things is talking about the mere collection of the parts is not the chariot. So sometimes there's if you try to think, what is the person? Well, maybe it's not the mind, it's not the body, but it's just this. It's just the mere collection of the parts. Just the mere collection of the aggregates. Here the Sautrantikas say it's the continuum of the aggregates is an illustration of the person. Okay? Or others say it's the mental consciousness. So neither of those are going to be accepted by the highest philosophical school, but there's something there that almost all of the Buddhist schools below the consequentialists, below the Prasangika, say that there is something that you can find which is within the basis of designation, which can stand as an illustration of the person, that's really the person. The first is asserted by the Sautrantikas following the Abhidharma Kosha, that is the followers of Scripture, and the second is held, that the mental consciousness is the illustration of the person, is by the followers of reasoning. The Sautrantikas who follow reasoning, that means they follow the 7 treatises on pramana, on valid cognition. So that's one kind of person, one kind of subject, the person. So there's a little talk about that. Then the definition of mind here is that which is clear in knowing. We know that definition from our low rate class, right? That which is clear in knowing. Do you know that, Mindral? Yeah? Leo, have you heard that definition before? Consciousness is that which is clear in knowing.
No, I have not.
So there are different meanings of the clarity, but certainly the function of consciousness is to know, to cognize. That's one of the distinguishing characteristics. Probably would be enough just to say that, that which is knowing. But here, that which is clear refers to, on one level, refers to like this clear light nature of the mind, the fact that it is not material. On one level, it means that the consciousness is not material, not form. For instance, Sister Thea will know the answer to this. There are three kinds of impermanent phenomena. If we were to divide up objects, impermanent, it follows that you don't know the three divisions, or you don't know the divisions of impermanent phenomena.
Let's
What are you going to
see.
say? You're going to say there's no pervasion?
No, there's three categories.
No. So you would, if you were debating, you would say, because you know the answer, and then I would say, what are they then? Okay.
The categories of impermanent.
Impermanent phenomena.
Uncompounded phenomena? No, that's permanent.
That's permanent.
Compounded phenomena.
I thought you'd know this because we talked about it at lunch.
I know. Just a
Matter, material form is impermanent, which is such as the form aggregate.
I think you talked about that with somebody else, but not with me.
Consciousness, we did. You remember now. Consciousness.
Okay.
And what's the third kind of impermanent phenomenon?
Matter, consciousness.
And that which is neither matter nor consciousness but impermanent is called non-associated compositional factors. You remember now? Okay, now, okay. I must have talked with someone else. I did talk with someone else. It was the Thea of lunch, who is no longer existing. That is the past of Thea. It has ceased and no longer exists. There was no imprint in the mind whatsoever.
You might get the same answer in the future.
So, in general, impermanent things, like when we talk about the world, Leo, we talk about, usually we think of there's two kind of things. There's either mind or matter, the famous philosophical debate, the mind, body, or mind over matter, or, mind is something. Seems, science nowadays seems to think the mind is somehow intimately related with matter, but from a Buddhist perspective, or might be actually a manifestation of matter or something, from a Buddhist perspective, mind is of a different continuum than matter. It is impermanent, but it is not material. You can't form mind out of matter. You can form energy out of matter. As Einstein showed, E equals mc squared. You can take energy and make matter, or you can take matter and get energy, but you can't make a continuum of consciousness out of matter. It's of a different continuum. And so that's one meaning of clarity when we say mind is clear and knowing. Another meaning subtler meaning perhaps, is that it is non-obstructing. That is, whatever, like non-matter, that is, that which is not matter. Matter is that which is obstructing. So mind being not material does not obstruct it is not obstructed by matter, nor does it obstruct minds arising within it. So when different consciousness arises, if there's a moment of anger and you just think, I'm angry, I can't get rid of it, that's the way it is. Actually, if you realize the clear light nature, the clarity of the mind, that which is clear and knowing, you realize that anger is not stuck in the mind. The mind is not holding it there. It's not like concrete and it's there and you can't do anything about it. Letting go in an instant, it can be gone. Another meaning of clarity is like the clarity that we attribute to a mirror, in that it is capable of reflecting whatever you place before it. It's not a good example of a mirror. Can you imagine a mirror? So you see the reflection, pencil in the mirror? The mirror, without any effort, gives rise to a image of whatever is placed before it. In the same way, whatever is placed before the mind gives rise to an aspect of that. That's another meaning of clarity. Further, when we talk about the meaning of clarity in sort of like in its relationship to emptiness, we talk about the clear light nature of mind, the ultimate clear light nature of mind. The ultimate clarity may be referring to emptiness, but it also refers to this some kind of this non-obstructive, clear light nature that we try to observe when we meditate on as we do at the beginning of our meditation, when we concentrate on the mind itself. So the mind is that which is clear in knowing. That is the definition. And where are we? So it is necessary to mention all three, according to the Sautrantikas. The words not that far yet. Definition of mind is that which is clear in knowing. There are two types of mind, valid cognizers and non-valid cognizers. So there are two types of consciousness, pramana and non-pramana. Pramana means a valid cognizer. So the definition of a valid cognizer for the Sautrantika is, everyone should know this, right? Who did Lorig? Mindrel, what's the definition? Oh, don't look.
I already looked.
Okay, what is it? Can you, at least you can remember from having looked.
Controvertible knower.
Well, here's his cognizer, but that's, we translated knower before. It's just a different way of translating the same word. So, okay, a new incontrovertible knower. So there are three terms, besides the word an. There are three terms. It is necessary to mention all three, new, incontrovertible, and cognizer, or knower, as the borders, as the limits of the definition of a valid cognizer, because new eliminates subsequent cognizers as being valid cognizers. Why would you even consider subsequent cognizers? What are subsequent cognizers? Do you know, Venerable? What are subsequent cognizers? Just a wee bit, no?
Subsequent cognizers, just a wee bit. Yeah. Subsequent cognizers are those that come after direct perceptions. Direct perceptions, is it? Or direct?
Is that
They're induced by direct perception.
subsequent cognizers are induced by direct perception?
By direct perception. And they can
Only by direct perceptions?
There's another thing that they're induced by as well.
Well, first of all, what's special about subsequent cognizers? What's the meaning of subsequent cognizer? They realize what they are realizing consciousnesses. They realize something which has already been realized. They're subsequent to having realized something initially. So there's two ways that you can realize something. You can realize something with direct perception, or you can realize it with inference. That is, with your mental consciousness, a certain kind of conceptual consciousness that's based on logic. Two ways of realizing. Those two ways of realizing, the first instant when they're new or fresh, because they realize the object, they are called incontrovertible. They get at the object in an incontrovertible way. They can't be contradicted and controverted. So those are, the first instance of those consciousnesses are called valid direct perception and valid inference. Right? The second instant after that, the next instant after that, a direct perception would no longer be, from the Sautrantika point of view, have the terminology valid or prime. You can call it like prime rib. Maybe there's a better, for the vegetarians, for the Buddhists, what would we call prime? Is there prime tofu, Venerable, in Taiwan? Best quality, what would the best quality tofu? Yeah, virgin press. Virgin, maybe extra virgin, there you go. Okay, I don't know where that's going to lead. Okay. Okay, so the word new eliminates subsequent cognizers. That is the second moment of that from being a valid cognizer. And incontrovertible eliminates correct assumption as being a valid cognizer. Actually, there are many other things that one might think might be valid cognizers. You might think doubt could be a valid cognizer, but here there are some tenets that hold, some philosophical views that might hold, when you correctly assume something, that is to say you believe something, you have a correct belief, even though you haven't developed that understanding through logic, as long as it's right, that's a valid, that sounds okay, doesn't it? That's a pramana. You know, the Buddha said something, you have faith in Buddha, and therefore, you know, Christ said something, you have faith in that, and therefore you believe that, and that's valid cognition. Isn't that okay? Why not?
Doesn't get at the object.
What do you mean doesn't get at the object? Come on. Just sounds like some kind of philosophical mumbo jumbo. What do you mean it doesn't get at the object?
It doesn't realize it? Or?
It hasn't realized the object necessarily. If you just, you know, there might be many misconceptions. If someone approaches the question and gives some arguments that you hadn't thought of before, you might say, oh, maybe there is no future life. I was just, you know, I've been misled, I've been brainwashed all these years. You know, I went to Buddhist catechism as a kid, and now I realized that, you know, maybe there's no future life. I'm going to become the next Bill Gates. So, yeah, it might just be Buddhist dogma. So that's why the Buddha always said you had to check what he said. You shouldn't accept what he said on faith alone. Doesn't mean you shouldn't accept what he said. What was that?
I was thinking of cutting and rubbing.
Right. I thought you were making omelet there. Okay, cutting eggs, rubbing the egg. Cut it like cutting gold and rubbing gold and burning gold and so forth. You have to check it in different ways. So it is incontrovertible. The fact that a valid cognition is incontrovertible eliminates correct assumption. There are different ways we can translate that. Correct presumption, correct belief. What other ways have you seen it translated? What did we translate it in Lorig? Correct belief? Assumption? Correctly assuming consciousness. Here, correct assumption. So what it means is a consciousness which is right but doesn't have perfect reasons. You know, like I think Sister Oma, we had a big debate about that last year. Remember about when you had some, what would you call it, precognition? Assuming that when you knew something was going to happen, and that if it happened, you said, I knew it. Intuition. I knew it. Well, maybe we didn't know it. Maybe we assumed it. If it turns out to be right, it doesn't mean that we actually validly knew that, does it? I mean, you might be led into thinking that. Many times we have those kinds of intuitions and we're wrong, right? Maybe not, I don't know. Do you ever? What'd you call them? You just call them facts. What do you call them?
Guesses.
Oh, guesses, okay. I thought you'd call them intuition. Okay.
No, if they're wrong, they're not intuition.
Okay. They were just guesses.
Oh, really?
If they're wrong, they're not intuition. When they're right, they're intuition. So intuition kind of sounds like valid cognition. Kind of sounds like that. So it's the fact that it has to be incontrovertible. It is never wrong. It gets at its object, eliminating superimpositions, realizes the object. And the word cognizer eliminates physical sense power, the physical faculties, as being valid cognizer. What does that mean? You should know this.
That's from the Vaibhashika when they're saying I didn't understand it. Like a sense power can.
Remember
I asked you about it.
right. Remember in the Vaibhashika system, it said that valid cognizer was not pervaded by being consciousness, something like that. That meant sense power. For them, the sense faculties were called pramana also. That is, I think what they would argue is that when the consciousness is there, the sense faculty also conjoined with the consciousness is realizing the object. But from a Buddhist perspective, the sense faculties which are clear matter, subtle matter, are not cognizers, so they're not called pramana. So that's one of the reasons why this definition is often quoted, these three terms, new incontrovertible knower or new controvertible cognizer. So valid cognizers can be divided into two. We mentioned this before. Valid direct perceivers and valid inferential cognizers. And those of you who studied a little bit of Lorig, or if you haven't studied, you might want to catch up someday on that particular topic. Valid direct perceivers are things kind of like what we know of. We have direct perceivers in our eye consciousness, ear consciousness, and so forth. Do we have, what did I ask here? Mark, do we have any inferential cognizers in our eye consciousness, in the retinue of our eye consciousness? Why not? We have direct perceivers that are in the retinue of our eye consciousness, that is to say, our eye consciousnesses are direct perceivers. Are there any eye consciousnesses that are inferential cognizers?
I don't think I can back up with logic, but as I understand it.
So you don't have an incontrovertible
I don't have an incontrovertible answer for it.
incontrovertible reasoning. So it could be swayed. You could be swayed by someone else's bad logic. Pardon?
I would say yes.
You'd say what? There are.
Sure.
Okay.
If you see smoke, you can infer there is fire.
Okay. So that's done by your eye consciousness.